Først ut så vil jeg presentere Ted Matthews, British Council, med innlegget Future City Games og Urban IDs Bakery. Vær så god.
That's me. It's the right slide, it's a good start. It's always nice to start after dinner. My name's Ted Matthews, I'm a process designer, I work here in Norway for the British Council. British Council is a cultural relations organisation, and we do cultural relations by working with people together for mutually beneficial futures. That was very quick, because I don't have much time. I've got 15 minutes, and someone will run on and rush me off again. Now, I've been working on this project. It's called the Creative Cities Project, and it's based through Europe, 15 countries. And the basis of the project is actually very dark. Yep, a forum and a network, which is mostly online. And we try to share ideas with each other and create new knowledge. But the bit I'm going to talk about today is the co-design processes that we've created. There's two. There's a Future City game and the Urban Ideas Bakery. Some of you may have heard of the Future City game, as we've run quite a few of them in Norway, 170 through Europe, and the Urban Ideas Bakery, which we've just run 4 of already. Now, I thought it would be worthwhile just talking about what co-design actually is. And it really is quite simple. It's kind of extreme medvirkning. We don't just get people together, ask them what they think, and then take along what they think and then make it happen. We actually design answers together with people. We actually collect people who may be affected by some of the big problems of today and say, well, how do we solve this? But what's design? That's a good question. When people think about design, they always think, yeah, it's sofas, TVs, radios, whatever. But actually, design is a process. We've got 3 parts of the design process. That's understanding the context, creating ideas, then testing and prototyping. We can solve some quite big problems by working in this way. When we've done some testing, we go back to the start again and try and use that testing, the results, in creating better ideas. And we can go on as long as we've got money or as long as we've got time until we've got the best solutions possible. This is a Future City game. It's a standard design process, co-design process. We start off by looking at the context and trying to find answers, and then we test them, and then we present to each other. And one of the nice things about this process is that we take a very global perspective to start with, things like climate change, things like migration or the financial crisis, and then we get people out of themselves to then start honing in on the local. Stops people worrying about park benches and lamps and parking and those kind of things, and start getting people to really, really worry about what's big, what's going on. I know that Statens Vegvesen has used this process after us, and I think they found it quite useful. The other thing, it's a game, so people enjoy themselves over 2 days, and they come up with some amazing ideas. The next process, this is a mega process. This is extreme medvirkning. Because what we do here, we don't only design the solutions together, we design the delivery of the solutions together. How many ideas jamborees have you all been to where the ideas just disappear afterwards? And it's all so jolly, isn't it? We enjoy ourselves and then come away and do nothing. So what we do here, over a 12-month period, we first look at the actual challenges. I think this is a pointy bit, yes. We look at the challenges here and we unpack them. Then we try and figure out what we're going to do in this kind of co-design element. And then we come together and we design short, medium, and long-term solutions. And then we design how we're going to deliver them. The short-term solution, we actually deliver during the event. It's a 3-day event. And last week, I delivered the 4th Urban Ideas Bakery in Stirling. And we did exactly that. We delivered a short-term solution, which then informs the medium and long-term solutions, which will happen over the next 4 months and 5 years. And they're really extreme experiences, and this is working extremely well. Now, I was going to go into some talk about the technology of this, if you could say that, or the technique, but it would take too long. And then I thought, well, what I should do is tell you about what we've learned. And on my way back on the aeroplane from Stirling, I thought, gosh, we've learned so much in the time that we've been doing this. 170 games, 4 Urban Ideas Bakery, and for the first Urban Ideas Bakery, it was so different than the one that we did in Stirling. And when I started writing down what we've learned, it looked like that. And the list actually goes on and on and on. So I thought if I went through that, you'd all leave. And I'm really happy to talk to you about some of these things that we've learned. They're kind of, what do you need to get in your mind if you're going to run MEDVIRKNING's processor, co-design process. And then yesterday, part of the conversations that were going on, there was so much big conversation happening yesterday, where we had big people. We had Big Ken, and we had Big Eric, and they were all talking about big things, and big infrastructure, and big projects, and store tiltak, and big money. 50 milliarder kroner I løpet av 5 år. There was, you know what I mean? And it was, I thought to myself, how on earth is this going to seem relevant when we start talking about design processes? People always seem that kind of, it just seems so twee and pleasant working with design. But actually, one of the things that was missing, at least the bits that I caught yesterday whilst I was running around in the background, was a real conversation about people. The people bit. There's an American comedian who's dead now, unfortunately, but he talked about, we're always talking about saving the planet. Actually, the planet's fine. There's nothing wrong with the planet. It's us that's the problem. We're going to make ourselves extinct. The planet will keep revolving. We just won't be here. So it's people who have the responsibility to do something. Cities are made up of people. It's more than just the buildings and the infrastructure. It's people. If the apocalyptic wave comes in up this river because of global warming and wipes everything out, which would be a shame, because it looks very nice now, I must say, would there still be a city here? And I imagine there would be, to a certain extent, because you would have some refugees who would probably go up to Liatoppen, but there's others who would probably build shacks and start living here. And within a year, you'd probably have people complaining about the neighbour's dog. But cities are about people, fundamentally, at the end of the day. So we need to engage with people if we're actually going to understand the challenges that they face, either one, when they're dealing with some of the everyday problems of maybe commuting or the environment or whatever. If we don't work with people, we don't find proper solutions, robust solutions. And we make a lot of presumptions, enormous presumptions, in fact. There's a lot of conversation yesterday about trains, transport, and it's a conversation I hear a lot. The words, if we had more regular trains, if we had timetables that actually functioned, then people would use them. Now, that is not necessarily the wrong answer, but it's not necessarily the full answer. It's not wrong, but it's not necessarily right. And we're making a presumption that if we had more reliable trains and more trains, people would use them. There was some research done for an exhibition in Holland about commuting. And they found that a lot of drivers drive not because they don't like the trains or the trains aren't punctual, they just like driving. They like being on their own in a car, having some time to themselves, away from the family, peace and quiet. They don't want to use the train. I know myself, I've got 2 small children. I sometimes just go and sit in the car on my own. Don't drive anywhere, just sit there. If we don't understand that user group and why they don't use the train, we can do more timetables, better timetables, punctual trains, more trains, but will they use those trains? We have disabled people or people in wheelchairs who have to get into some form of metal harness to get into a train. If we don't find out what they experience when they go on a train, that it's embarrassing perhaps to have to get to Oslo S and be hauled off a train, that the train gets delayed and everyone's sat there going, how did it go? Will better timetables and more frequent trains and more reliable trains get them to use the train? What about being scared on a train? I think the last train back to Oppegård Syd on a Saturday night is quite scary. Will more timetables, more trains, make me use that train? No. So the answer isn't wrong, but it's not necessarily right. Maybe we're actually barking up the whole wrong tree anyway. Maybe we should work remotely from hubs in our small villages. Maybe we could create collectives who won't even need to drive on trains. I don't really need to go into the office 4 days a week, 5 days a week. I could work from a small office near where I live and build new communities of people out there. Not necessarily the right answer, but not necessarily the wrong one either. But our society problems are really complex, as is some of the things we're trying to grapple with in terms of fremtidsbyen. It's a chap called Risto, who wrote about wicked problems in the 70s. Basically what he said, the anatomy of a problem is complex. It's difficult. Sometimes the thing that seems like the problem is actually just the effect of a need not being addressed. We think it's the big problem because it shouts at us. An example of this could be poverty, for example. We say poverty is a problem, but in fact, poverty could actually be the effect of the fact that people aren't educated, a need that's not being addressed. We've already started to solve the problem just by understanding the problem. We can now focus on education. And then when we start to unpack the solution, we understand the problem better, like in the design process. And this is what we do with the Urban Ideas Bakery. This is from Sterling. This is from last week. We say there's a need here, there's barriers that are preventing us from addressing those needs. These are the effects here of those needs not being addressed, and this is the impact on both the environment and on the economy and on society, on culture. And these are who? These are the people who are being affected. We need to bring these people into a co-design process to tell us how they are affected and what they would do about their problems, their lives. After that, we start to find solutions. And we don't only find solutions, we actually start unpacking our solutions. We can say, yes, we're planning for multiple positive effects up here and we want to make change, we want to make impact. But we also want to say, well, could there be negative effects for what we do? Could there be a downside? Sometimes the solution makes more problems than the actual problems themselves. Yesterday, Mr. Solheim mentioned that we should all get in electric cars. How many people here work as city planners? Is there a problem if everyone drove electric cars into the centre of town? Maybe Eric should do a co-create design process with you, because he would have figured out that there's some major negative effects with that. Maybe if he'd done a co-design process from the very start with the users of cities, that question would have never come up, and he'd have saved some time, possibly some money too. So I've actually got very little more to say because I wanted to condense it down and be quite succinct. The reason why we do co-design is because we get some really rounded and robust answers. One of the other reasons that we do it is because we get buy-in. If people take ownership of the challenges, if people take ownership of the problems, if they comprehend them, understand them, people will start to contribute more and feel, in fact, you know, the planet's going to pot, it affects me personally. It really does affect me personally. The top-down, bottom-up thing, first time I heard that, I thought it was a joke. But seriously, top-down, bottom-up, the big plans, the big policies, they really need to be in place. We need to do them, but they need to be informed by the people who they affect. Now, I was reflecting on this. I gave up smoking just around the time that Høgskolen banned smoking in bars. I'm quite grateful for Høgskolen for that, actually, because it's awful when you're out and everyone's enjoying a cigarette and you're there. Yes. But that policy would have been meaningless to me if I didn't comprehend, understand, had buy-in to the fact that smoking was killing me. If I don't understand that, if it's not really apparent, the urgency of that, Høgskolen can ban whatever he likes, but I'm still going to go out and have a fag. I'm going to go and do it. So we need to do this top-down, create the policies, but create it with people. You can create fantastic infrastructures, but if people don't believe in it, people don't want to use it, they won't use it. Because it doesn't apply to them. It has no relevance to them at all. So we need to stop designing for people. We need to design with them. It seems that we have some really big challenges and we have some really big answers. But if we don't do them together with people, we'll make some really big mistakes. Thank you.